Continuing the discussion about the critical topics in software engineering from the previous video, the quality control is good for the embedded, is prioritized for the embedded software systems, and there are a few principles that have to be followed for the critical topics in the software engineering system. Those are the changing control. There should be a complete control on the changing the requirements during the process of control, and the good estimating of the project and the schedules and even the cost, the budgeting, and even the good measurements of the size of the project. And the reusability is also one of the critical topics. The reuse by We used to use the zero defect projects on objects only, because reusing the objects which have the defects would regenerate the defects and would multiply the defects. The line of code and the cost per defect is also an important aspect that has to be followed. It has there are two things which can be seen here. This is a single line of code which does these are the two snippets which does the same operations, but same operations and the same logic and same implementation, but the lines of code deceives us. We often get misled using the lines of code on the cost per defect. The lines of code metric penalizes the high level languages. The cost per defect metric penalizes the quality and achieves its best results from the budget. I'll discuss about the deceiving of the line of code, being deceived by the line of code. Uh, it is said that the 10,000 line of code system requires 13.5 staff months, and 100,000 line of code estimates to require 135 staff months, but actually requires only 170 staff months. Actually requires 170 staff months. It cannot be proportionalized. The multiple of 10 of the line of code would make 135 staff months enough. This doesn't hold good, because the lines of code, this is the case where we get deceived by the lines of code. And there would be different programs using the different languages, and this is the C language uses the if you have to print a statement in the C language, this is the 4 lines of code, and in the COBOL it is 6 lines of code, and in C it is easily readable, and in COBOL it is not so easily readable, because there would be different, and also it depends on the language, as stated, it depends on the language used. And there will be these are the lines of codes for different operating systems. In 1993, the Windows NT 3.1 used 6 million lines of code, and 2007 Vista used 50 million lines of code, approximately equal to 50 million lines of code. The project size, and these are the average codes per year, project size and cost estimate that is been tabulated here. The layoffs and downsizing also impacts the software project. These layoffs and downsizing also have to be comes under the best practices. We need to have some good norms to practice these layoffs. The care not If the care is not taken in the offshore workers and lay off the employees of the native land, then it becomes an legal issue. And the renovation, restructuring, removal of error-prone modules can improve the quality even at the time of layoffs. If you are trying to lay off something, we need to plan the renovation and restructuring before that, so the fewer number of employees can manage the entire project. The ratio of the managers to workers decreases. This is the manageability. This can also be contributed to the efficient work. Sometimes behaving a large span of control improve the performance by reducing the contention and disputes among the managers. At the layoff time, do not compromise on the inspections, statistic analysis, testing, and quality control activities, because those are of the most priority in software applications. Layoffs and this is case where 50,000 workers have been cut down on November 8th by HTC, by Citigroup, and there are different big chains which laid off in this between 2000 to 2015. care while laying off an employee. The intellectual property has to be safeguarded while laying off an employee. If the employee is not handled well during the layoff, what happens? There's an example where the pharmaceutical supplier is sued from pharmaceutical supplier sued from the employee claiming use of secure file deletion until violated federal law. Hacking laws were introduced in 2007, May 29th. We need to handle the layoffs in a courteous and professional manner. Most of the employees would be glad to leave behind the information on key topics. Uh, and there was an example of the Capital One where the employee had an access of all the credit card informations, um, and that was the recent Capital One scam. If there is a complete disclosure of the research facility, complete closure of the research facility, if your companies give the patent to the uh, employees so that they can start their startup and thereby continue to make progress and on the useful ideas. Uh, the adapting of the lower size teams using the Six Sigma statistic analysis, automated testing, and team software processing may make the work easier even during the layoffs. Um, this is what this is the tabulated column is what is actually happening and which is decided to happen. The developing and planned features, out of 220 active working days, there are 47 days are spent on these, and 70 days are spent on bugs repairing and testing. If this has been changed to 20 days, and if the remaining days are spent on the developing, deploying, and planning, then it improves the quality. Consequences of best and worst quality is like the best the high quality, there would be an high quality because of the best performance, smaller teams, and good maintenance teams. And the low quality is because of the schedule delays, the cost overruns, and many other problems that experience effort with low positive results. The motivation and morale of the technical staff is also important in the best software and getting the best software application outcome. The employee morale describes the overall outlook, attitude, satisfaction, and confidence that employee feels at work. When employees are positive about their work environment and being believe that they can meet their most important career and vocational needs, employee morale is positive and high. And handling the canceling and turnover projects, the best practices has to be followed during the canceling the projects and turning over the project, because often at times, after working on the project, if we cancel the project, it would be overburden on the company. The best practices are the careful and accurate status tracking. We should track the status well, and re-estimation of schedules and cost due to requirement changes has to be done. A re-estimation of the value of the frequent intervals, and a hiring external turnaround consultants when we are sure that the project has to be turned around. Because being a professionals in developing, we cannot be professional in estimating the turnaround loss of the company, and we cannot make a decision. We cannot make an appropriate decision on turning around or canceling the projects. The best project of the software engineering organizational structure. The small teams will yield the good productivity, but not necessarily. Mm, but it doesn't suit for the large projects. uh, the manager the manager personality also depends. The best people leave the largest number. This is the main problem. They say that I don't want to be working under the bad management which doesn't recognize my work. The coming to the types of organizational structure which best suits is the functional organization, the project based organization, the matrix based organization. The functional organization are suited for the primary functions, and projectized organizational structure for these are also suited for different kinds of software projects which we discussed in future. Mm, we often the software applications needs the software specialists to be employed. The specialists are the design specialists. They are to maintain and implement the database systems, computer applications, and operating systems, and different kinds of other applications. The few software specialists are the network technician, the engineer, program manager, the consultant senior, consultant program manager, and the network technician and network engineer. And these are the list of the specialist groups. Uh, and the technical topics that might be certified are certifications are also of the top priority. These are the list of the technical topics that can be certified, and these are the skills that the certification can help. The best practices in the communication during the software project, the agile methodology, the scrum itself is the best communication medium. And there will be the daily scrum sessions, the email supports, and the voice calls, and the daily communication with the developers and the developer managements, and the contracts and subcontractor and the prime contractor and the vendor and the project manager. These are all the communication things. We taken care about that. All the communications things will be taken care of the agile methodology if it is followed. The best practices with software reusability. The reusability, as we also already discussed, the reusability is the best. Is the main thing that which cuts down the cost to a large extent. There are 15 artifacts of the software project that can have the potential of being reused. The architecture can be reused. The architecture used for the previous project, which suits the present requirement specifications, also can be used. The requirements can be analyzed using the previous requirement. The source code from the zero defect projects components can be used. The screens can be used. The test scripts, the test cases can be reused. There are many other things that can be reused, and all customers or the users, in case of a recall, can have this kind of reusabilities. But the care should be taken that the buggy materials cannot be reused, because in this case the best practice would be inspection of the reusable text documents, inspection of the reusable code segments, statistical analysis of how the reusable code can be segmented and can be used, testing of the reusable code segments, etc. The best practices of certification of reusabilities. And there are a few other things that can be focused on. The materials of zero approach defect levels are well developed with return on investment on any knowledge, on any desired knowledge. And coming to the summary of causes of software development problems, the poor communication is one of the cause. Resistance to change or change in requirements is one of it. And not reviewing the project reviewing sessions are not being conducted well would also cause to the software development. Unclear requirement, unrealistic expectations, and an absence of good project manager working without some specific objective. These all forms the projects to fail. And these are the symptoms and the root causes for the best practices. The lead discovery can form to the poor testing and waterfall development, and these waterfall development uh, can be countered with the best iteratively developed best practices. And the poor testing, we need to take up the quality of best practice of verifying the quality of it. That is the quality assurance. And thank you for this.